Wait, who are you
Uh,
talking about?
the Lighthouse is like really great cinematography, but in a
Oh,
different way than 1917. So it's kind of comparing apples and oranges. It's not really.
yeah,
I wouldn't be able to,
yeah.
say one was better than the other because they're
I
just so different stylistically.
I agree. It like sort of depends on what you like better. I really like the cinematography in Lighthouse. Lighthouse, I really did, but I preferred 1917 in that regard.
Oh, you did
Um,
see Lighthouse.
I did see the Lighthouse, but just once, and it was a while ago.
Oh, and you were lukewarm on it.
Huh?
Were you lukewarm on it?
Yeah, yeah. I was like, I watched it, and I'm like, I was like, yeah, I'm glad I saw it in the theater, but I'm not sure I liked it.
Hmm.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
kind of had a similar reaction when I saw it. I don't know if it was more that movie technically was like immaculate, but I don't know if I how much I enjoyed it. And then I saw it a
Yeah.
second time, and I get what they're going for here. I
Hmm.
really think it's a movie that takes a second. Like you need to know what you're getting into, and then once you see it the second time, you know what you're getting into.
Hmm.
I think.
Okay. Yeah, then I'll see the second time I watched it.
Yeah,
And
and
actually,
I wanna see with subtitles too, really badly because I know I missed like a good
oh,
chunk
you
of the
didn't see it with
dialogue.
subtitles.
No,
Oh, yeah, I was lucky that here, if I watch an English movie, it's always with subtitles. Like, I
yeah, I
plainly
wish I had
cannot
that
see
option.
an English movie in the theater without subtitles. It's not possible.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, actually, a while ago I realized that there was another film that I felt that I like had a similar reaction to, or maybe to a lesser extent, because after I watched Parasite for the first time, I was like, oh yeah, this is good. It's not burning, but it's really good. And then I watched it for
Mhm.
the second time, and I was like, yeah, there was some things that I like more watching the second time, but generally I thought like the surprise has to be there the first time watching is better. But then now I'm following like a Twitter account who's just like spamming things about Parasite for some reason, and like I'm finding more and more details that like sort of adds to the whole shtick of the movie that you don't
Mhm.
really take in on your first one or two watches. And so it's also like having the same effect that Burning had, where like it gets better over time. So I'm actually gonna see that movie again next week, and this time I'm gonna watch it in black and white actually, because the theater here is
Oh,
doing that, thankfully. Um, so yeah, that movie is growing on me more and more also. So maybe uh, that will all get also get an episode, but we'll see.
sweet, sweet. Yeah, every movie I've watched so far. Oh, that's not a sense anymore.
Uh,
every every movie I've rewatched except Under the Skin has like gone down.
yeah, it's. I feel like we both started off so strong that now it's like hard to do like, oh yeah, what's on this level. Um,
Right, right.
but actually, the movie that we're gonna talk about now, um, Wes Anderson's The Grand Budapest Hotel, is
Uh-huh.
also has like a weird effect on me, I would say,
Hmm.
because whenever I'm sort of not watching it, like it basically has the opposite effect. Because while I'm not watching it, I'm like, it's good, but no, it's not one of the best of the decade. But then while I
Hmm.
watch it, I'm like, oh yeah, now I get why I think it is. It's like
Hmm.
because it's so like it is so good mainly because of like visual cues in there that while you're not watching it, I feel like you appreciate it less,
Hmm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get that. We might want to start the episode mid conversation because we're talking about the movie.
It's already going, my dude.
Ah! Oh, you
Ah!
got me.
Gotcha there, didn't I?
You did. Oh, that's gonna be an awesome intro.
Yes.
Okay, well, I was gonna wait, but Okay, well, I think that's very interesting. I kind of have an opposite effect, or I did, upon rewatching it. I think this is like my third or fourth time seeing it. I felt like a week ago. And the first couple times I saw it, I was like, I enjoyed that more than I liked the technical aspect of it. And then I saw it this time, and I liked the technical more than I like enjoyed it. Like had a fun time with it. Like it kind of flipped on it a little bit.
Okay. I mean, I can sort of get that because it is a comedy. So of course, with every comedy, essentially, once you know the jokes, they just become less and less funny. Although I think like when I started, because I had watched it quite a few times before I started sort of, I guess, looking into the jokes, where I like started to pay attention to how they're being delivered. I'm not sure if I can explain it. Like once you start paying attention to that, you also like appreciate that more, and it has more an effect on you than it has like watching the second or third time, where you're just like, oh yeah, there was that joke, and you just sort of knew it already, and it's not as funny anymore.
Do you have an example?
For example, there is this. See, actually, like I think that's probably not even a good example because I still find it quite funny. Where the son, the character played by Agent Brody, he's in the office of Jeff Goldblum's character, and then he just like gets mad and storms out, and his bodyguard, Willem Dafoe, just throws the cat out the window, and then Jeff Goldblum was just like, "Did you just throw my cat out the window?" And they're like, "Oh, Fred, what? No, you wouldn't do that." And she just like looks down, and there's the dead cat on the floor, and then when he leaves his office, he just like hands in like a receipt from the code checkers, which says like one Persian cat, in brackets deceased, and then he just gets this bag with the dead cat, and it has a blood stain on that. And I find like I find it still quite funny, but like of course on the first time it's funny, most funny. But like what I realized is that like if you would just watch that, you would just be like, he just throws the cat out the window, and then that's it. Then it wouldn't be funny, because like I feel like you don't even realize that he throws the cat out the window until Jeff Goldblum's just like, "Did you just throw my cat out the window?" And just like that line just sort of makes it funny. Of course, like the act of having a cat thrown out the window and all that stuff, it is funny, but like still the joke happens and then it is told basically.
Yeah, it's a show don't tell, but then they tell afterwards. Kind of thing.
Exactly. And that is super weird, but it very much works in this case.
Those movies, like, I don't know if I'd call it a comedy. It's like a Wes Anderson movie. Like that's all I'd say it is. Like, it's its own like thing. Like even when I saw it the first, like it's just so quirky and it's so charming.
Yeah.
And I think it's more quirky and charming than it is like laugh out loud funny.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Or even like it's more of like a exhale of air through your nose funny, where you just like
yeah, very much so,
but that doesn't take away from it at all, because that's like just the style of it, like the whole physical comedy of the cat's out the window and then the guy just looks up and it's like in a perfectly framed shot, like that's funny, just the way it's done like that. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Well, I mean, Ray Fiennes' character, that never gets old, like all of his like crazy dialogue and lines and how he just wants to recite poetry all the time. It's that old. And that gets like a little chuckle, which is about what the movie's going to get out of you is a little chuckle. Yeah. I think. Even first watch or 10th watch.
Yeah. But I also feel like, sort of because of that nature, you know how the movie is mostly like these very sophisticated people, he's you know, Ralph Fiennes' character, he's very much like a candy ass. You know, he's very put together. You know, and I feel like
Improper. Yeah.
yeah, and I feel like the movie is almost made for that exact audience. You know, where it's like it is not very crude, and it's not like humor where you would have to be like, you know, like the cliche is always like these very posh people just being like, oh, ha, 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 you know.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's sort of getting that reaction out of you, so it's sort of making you the part of the. It sort of makes you relate to Ralph Fiennes' character in a way, because you and like
Definitely.
the
Yeah, that's a
his
weird. That's an
disciples
interesting
is there.
take.
Yeah,
It's an interesting take that it's the movie's kind of making you more like getting you into the world so much that it's making you like the character. And I think the genius of his character is he's so refined, and then he just like says crude things comparatively,
yeah,
like, you know, like fucking this or fucking that, or you
yeah.
know,
But when they're like,
what does he call the guards on the train? He says the line twice. You pig-headed pockmark fascist fucks or
yeah,
something like that. And he has like a profanity laced thing, and it's like elegant, but it's like still like profane
yeah,
for him, and it just like comes out of nowhere. Or the whole thing about how he sleeps with old women.
yeah. It's like
just
it's
oh,
mid
yeah.
mid conversation. She's like, oh, she was so nice, and like, and she, by the way, she was amazing in bed. Like he
Yeah,
just
and
like
it's like just
slips it out of nowhere. Yeah. And then there's this
yeah.
one scene in the I don't know how you say it in church. There's like this sort of, it looks like a closet where you do your confessions.
Oh, the confessional, yeah.
Confessional, yeah. And then he's talking to Serge X, and then he's just like losing his temper, and then all of a sudden he's like, you know, tell me what the fuck is going on. This is a fucking nightmare. And it's just completely loses it, and all of a sudden he's not that, yeah, careful with his words anymore.
But it fleshes him out more, and it makes him like a more of a complete character. He's not just this one note person.
Yes.
And then like he's in prison, and the first time you see him, he has like black eyes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like I had to beat people up to like get their respect.
Yeah.
Oh,
I in general, like I quite love a lot of the prison scenes when he's like he sits down with all the guys, and then one of his companions is like, I talked it over with the boys, and we think you're a real straight fella. And then he says, well, I've never been accused of that before. And it's just like, see, that's like also something that actually I missed the first time, because I unfortunately watched the movie in German for the first time, and I can't really recreate what the joke is in German, but it's definitely not that. And it's just like so brilliant.
Yeah, and there's so many subtle things, like when he's in prison and he's serving porridge or soup or whatever. It's like, okay, of course he's gonna do that. He's like a concierge. Like,
yeah,
I didn't even put two and two together until I saw it this time. But then it's a very attention to detail like that.
Yeah, and it's also like very much the picture of the guy who does not like belong into prison, so to speak, is the one who's doing that. Like in Shawshank Redemption, it's this old guy who takes care of the library, and he has this pet raven and stuff. And when you're watching that movie, the whole time you're like, why is that guy here? You know, what is he done to be there? Because he very much does not fit into the scheme of, you know, a prisoner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get that, and it's, I mean, I think every character except Willem Dafoe's character and Harvey Keitel's character are like that, where they're like, there's a prison arc, and none of these characters feel like they belong in prison.
Yeah,
like it doesn't seem like it fits, but it works perfectly, and that's on a technical level, and a story level, and a character level. Like it's just flawless, but there's just a enjoyment value that's missing for me, and I don't really know what it is. And it's not really, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. There's just like something, I don't know. I guess you it's one of your favorites, so there's an enjoyment factor that you have that I don't have.
Yes, I suppose that it is. But I also like that's for me is like the thing I can um like I can say what I think is good about the movie, but I would have a hard time actually explaining why I think it is better than certain other movies of this decade. Um,
Hmm.
but of course, then when I watch it, I'm like, oh yeah, of course, this is better than this or that. Um, which that's what I meant. It just gives me a weird, I guess, relationship to with this movie, but still, I very much like it, definitely. Um, and of course, like as we talked about 1917, it's just great
But did that make
cinematography.
it
Is
in?
huh? No, it
Did that
didn't.
make
It
it
didn't
in?
make it in. No, I can
Oh
already reveal
no.
that. But like, that is also a movie where I'm like, I'm just a sucker for good cinematography. Like, if there's anything exciting about cinematography, I just like I melt in a way. That's
Hmm.
why I love, or it's one of the reasons why I love Wong Kar-wai movies so much, and uh, why I love Wes Anderson so much. Although I think like there's no like film fan who does not like Wes Anderson movies. Of course, you would like
Um,
some of his movies more than others,
mhm.
but I don't think anyone dislikes his movies. Or do you?
I've heard of a couple. I mean, I think it's a minority, but I've heard of a couple. But
Hmm.
no, he's pretty well liked in general.
Yeah.
I dig him. My favorite. You're probably gonna laugh at me. Um, Life Aquatic.
Wait, what?
My favorite of his is Life Aquatic. Have you seen that one?
No, wait. Actually, it does not ring a bell.
It's the one with Bill Murray, and he's the well,
Well, Bill Murray is in a lot of his movies.
yeah. Well, he's like the sea explorer. He's
Okay.
trying to find the tiger shark that killed his friend. He's on a ship, and Owen Wilson's the son, and Kate Blanchett's in it, and she's a reporter, and Willem Dafoe's in it, and he's like the first mate. He's the skipper. Um, it's just a quirky adventure.
Okay.
Yeah, that
No,
one's my favorite.
it does not ring a bell at all. But
Oh.
yeah. I mean, I've also not like seen so much that he's done. I have watched parts of Moonrise Kingdom and unfortunately was not able to finish it, and am not able to stream it currently. Although I really
Hmm.
want to watch it, and I really want to watch Fantastic Mr. Fox because I feel like a lot of people say that that's their favorite of his. Um,
Yeah, I get that. I really like that one. I like that one more than Isle of Dogs, like slightly, not by a lot, but
See,
a little
that's
bit.
because that surprises me actually, because I'm a huge fan of I Love Dogs also, and that actually like there's a chance that there might be two Wes Anderson movies in my top five because I Love Dogs might be in there. But I really
Hmm.
want to watch Fantastic Mr. Fox also, but I can only stream it in German for some reason, and I'm not gonna do that. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, but I
Yeah, I
Love
mean the
Dogs
voice
also.
acting in those movies is like half the fun.
Yeah, exactly. And I think George Clooney is Mr. Fox. No,
Yes, yes.
yeah, I
Yeah,
like.
who plays his wife?
Damn.
I can't remember. But yeah, George Clooney's the main guy. Well, it's the whole. You have the whole cast in there,
Yeah,
uh, and then
but
Isle
I
of
guess
Dogs is even a bigger cast.
yeah, but also like there's so many people that are in so many of the Grand Budapest of oh my god of Wes Anderson's movies. Like I have the case of the DVD of the Grand
Mhm.
Budapest Hotel in here, and the actor who plays Mr. Mustafa, uh, F. Murray
F.
Abraham,
Murray Abraham. Yeah, he's
yeah,
a great actor.
he's also in Isle of Dogs. Willem
Hmm.
Dafoe, no, I think he's not in Isle of Dogs. Jeff Goldblum
Yeah,
as
yes,
Harvey
he is.
Keitel is.
No, all of them are. Willem Dafoe's in it too. I don't remember
Is
exactly
he?
what dog he is, but he's or
Wait,
what human he is. He's in it though.
no, I don't think so. I really don't.
I'm willing to bet. I'll bet you a shekel.
Okay, then let's see. Willem Dafoe. Oops, that's Bill Murray. There we go. Willem
Nowhere else are
Dafoe.
you gonna get this on a podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
A bet. Bet and resolved.
Of shekels.
All in one episode. Isn't this exciting? Okay, so
Yeah.
Isle of Dogs was 2018. And in 2018, Willem Dafoe was in At Eternity's Gate, Vox Lux, and Aquaman, but not in Isle of Dogs.
Why? God damn it.
Nope.
Okay.
I think...
I owe you a chuckle.
Yep. But I also think like the only character that he... Or sort of like based on his stereotype character that he often plays, the only character that would have fit him is the one that Harvey Keitel is playing.
Yeah,
But yeah.
that's true.
But Bill Murray, I'm pretty sure, is
Yeah.
also in Isle of Dogs. Edward Norton definitely is.
He was one of the four main,
Yeah,
like in
exactly.
the first group there. He was one of the four main. It was Bill Murray, Edward Norton,
Jeff Goldblum.
Jeff Goldblum, and I don't. The other guy's like a known actor, but I don't remember his
Oh
name.
yeah, Bob Balaban.
Yeah,
Yeah.
him, and
He
then
was-
Bryan Cranston's the
And
main.
he was also in Grand Budapest Hotel.
Oh, who was he?
He was one of the other concierges that, like, you know,
Oh,
there's the
okay.
scene where they all just
The
call each
montage.
other. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think my favorite scene is, and it's super subtle, and they're on the train, and they have Boy with Apple, and
I think I know
they're
what
like
you
trying to
mean.
make a plan. They're making a plan, and we gotta like keep it hidden somewhere and not let anyone find it when it blows over, and do all this, and then they like make a they're like, we gotta make a blood pact or whatever.
Yeah.
And then Ray finds lays back down in his bunk bed, and then the narration comes into it, and he said, I never asked him. He never told me where he was from. I didn't know if he had a family, and then that was it. It was
Yeah,
such
and
a
then he
subtle,
closes
nice
his
scene.
eyes, and that's when the scene ends. Yeah.
Yeah, I
think, like,
love that scene.
That scene is so good from start to finish, I feel like, because there's also, you know, you start off with the picture Boy with Apple, and then it goes, or I think it's framed, it doesn't go out, but he just looks at it and you know, talks about it, and then he just turns around and says, look at the resemblance, and then you see in the small round mirror, you see Zero like leaning out of his bed and looking at it, and just the way that it's set up with a mirror, I'm like, oh, brilliant.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. So many little moments like that.
Yeah.
And I'd never found out, is Boy with Apple an actual painting, or did
No,
they
it's
just make
not.
that up? I'm pretty sure they made it up. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure even the painter, it's all made up. Or I think I read it like they sort of combined the names of two or three painters, actual painters, into the name of, I think it was Johannes van Heudel the Younger. And it's like, also that's one of the things that like that I find so quirky about it, when they're reading the will of Tilda Swinton's character, and Jeff Goldblum reads the small note that she left Ralph Fiennes' character, the painting Boy with Apple, and he just like reads, you know, okay, so it says, to Monsieur Gustave I will leave the painting, the Boy with Apple, that we both, or the painting that we both loved so much, Boy with Apple, from Johannes van Heutel, or whatever his name is, and everyone's like gasping, and then he says the Younger, and then all of a sudden Adrian Brody is like, what? Like, it just suggests that there is an older Johannes van Heutel who also made a painting called Boy with Apple.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't even notice that. Yeah, that's like such like a little minute detail that
Yeah.
adds so much to like the lore of that made up little country that they
Yeah.
made that they had. And then I like that aspect too, where it's based on real stuff, but it's different enough, made up enough.
Yeah. Like how there's
like
the,
obviously it's taking place during World War II, but they don't call it World War II.
yeah.
You know what
and
I
then
mean?
there's the Nazis, but instead of SS it's ZZ, and yeah.
So it's like it's during like Nazi occupation, but it's not the occupation. It's cool. I dug that too. It wasn't. It makes it less on the nose, I think.
Yeah.
Which is,
It's clever. Yeah.
like if you watch A Hidden Life, which we were talking about, that's kind of really on the nose. It's about a conscientious observer in Germany. Even though that does give like a very unique view of Nazi Germany, and that there were conscientious observers, because we don't have to get into this rabbit hole if you don't want to, but in America, it's like World War II. World War II is told from, history is told from the point of view of the winner. So it's like, it's kind of in like a history class or something like that. It's like black and white. Like, here's the Allies, here's the Axis powers, and that's it. You don't hear about these like people like they do in life, where it's this conscientious observer, and he's standing up to Nazi power in Germany, and this is the consequences of that and all that stuff. So it's interesting in that point of view.
Yeah, because like usually, especially in movies, it's like always about the quote unquote the exciting bits. Like it is about the war itself and the armies and the politicians involved, sort of. But the common people sort of they fall flat in movies. I guess it's not as exciting to watch, but there's just no representation for that. But of course, they also play. They also matter very much, and it's. I guess especially for people like me, it is nice to have that representation, So
maybe you should have seen Hidden Life instead and sat through the 3 hours.
Maybe, yeah, but I didn't watch it with I did went to the movies with a German, so maybe and I didn't decide on what to watch, so maybe that's why it was the different decision. But also, I think I would have chosen 1917, even though I wasn't like super into either movies, but I was like, yeah, I'm not sure if I want to spend 3 hours in the cinema today.
Yeah.
And
you've never seen a Terrence Malick movie before, right?
Not knowingly, so probably not.
Yeah, that was not the one you should have started with. Like,
oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just his style is very. It's very artsy. It's very art house, where it's like a lot of like long not static, but just long sweeping shots of nature and animals and trees and shit, and it's focused on the visual aspect, which I think you'd like. It's just very, very slow paced. Like that's the style, is extremely slow paced.
Okay. Well, I don't necessarily think I would mind that. Sorry?
I think Tree of Life is his best so far.
Okay. I think it's also.
And I saw Days of Heaven.
No.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just trying to intervene and say that I think Tree of Life is also the one that I've heard of the most. So it sort of makes sense that's the best one, I guess.
Because he got a lot of Oscar attention for that when it came out. I think that's why. But
okay.
Yeah, Days of Heaven is pretty well regarded, even though I didn't like it. And Thin Red Line is pretty well regarded. It's like a war movie. What else did he come out with?
Oh yeah, I think that one I know also.
Apparently Badlands is pretty good. That's his first one. I haven't seen that.
Oh wait, no, okay. I was thinking of a different one.
You haven't seen Badlands?
No, but I think that the movie that made us not go sort of was Song to Song, which apparently was not good, and that was the one that was constantly in my friend's mind. So she was like, "Yeah, I think I want to watch one of his movies right now."
I've never even heard of that. Oh, okay. Oh, that's one of his like earlier ones. I get it.
No, it's not. Song to Song, it's like also 2010s probably. Wait, let's see. We're totally like getting off track, but it's okay.
Whatever.
It's not like we're
you said
doing
we
it for
were
the
going to have
first
a lot to talk about on this particular movie, so we
Yeah.
can talk about Terrence Malick.
True.
You know why I didn't like Days of Heaven?
Song to Song is 2017. No, tell me.
Okay, I want to get the. I'm gonna get this out in the public. Um, Days of Heaven is about uh, blue collar, poor workers in Chicago, and they take a job in some fucking wheat field in some farm, and fucking what's the actor? Not John Hurt. Oh, I can't remember who it is. Good classical actor. And he's like the heir of this like farming empire kind of thing, and he owns this farm, and he brings in workers every season to pick his wheat, and there's a lot of wheat shots. But the fucking narration's by the kid, the one of the main kids, and she's like 9 or 10, and it's the most infuriating, awful thing ever because the kid's trying to do a new Chicago accent, and it's just horrendous. So a picture of 2.5 hour movie and the narrator is a 10-year-old who's trying to do a Chicago accent, and that's Days of Heaven.
I didn't even know there was a Chicago accent, but.
Oh yeah, there's a Chicago accent, but it's like this kid's doing like a caricature of it, and it's just awful. So just go on YouTube and look up the nice cinematography of the wheat field, and you'll get the picture. You can skip the rest of it.
Okay, I'll check it out after this.
Yeah.
Hey, how about we just track back to the movie that we were talking about for a moment at least.
Okay. Yes, that's fine. There's no wheat fields in Grand Budapest Hotel. There you go, segue.
There's barley fields, or just one, but it appears twice. Maybe it's not the same one.
Where?
In the train, both times they stop. Like, first time one of them says, "Why are we stopping at a barley field?" And then the second time they say, "Why are we again stopping at a barley field?"
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I guess that's World War II imagery again too, where it's like, I don't like it. It's not maybe I'm making a stretch there. I guess it's like, I'm thinking more of like concentration camp trains, and then they stop in the middle of like this middle of nowhere barley field, and then bad stuff happens, and that's kind of like the same thing. But it's a nicer train, obviously, and they stop in the middle of nowhere, and bad things happen.
True.
And guards come and rough people up. So I guess it's giving that illusion a little bit.
True. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Maybe it's just kind of.
I mean, like
pretty subtle the whole way through, that kind of imagery.
I mean, like the one thing that is not subtle, of course, is that it's the racism against him, because like both times, the first time it's more on the likes of you don't have valid documents, and then one of them gives one to him, and then they're like, okay, fine, but still it seems a little racist. But then of course the second time they're like, okay, I don't care about documents. He's an immigrant, get out of here. Basically. Again,
from a made-up country, and all that stuff. So that's just another pretty cool layer that it's the immigrant from a made-up country has immigrated to another made-up country. That's based on some real country. But you're
also
right.
He fled because of a made-up war, or
right.
Fictional war. Of course, I'm sure it's based on a real one also, but yeah.
Yeah, and he's in the middle of another made-up war that's pretty much World War II, but not called that.
Yeah.
I guess because they say don't. Isn't there like a shot of the newspaper and it's the Great War has started or something like that, and that's like a World War I kind of thing. The Great War.
I was thinking that earlier that maybe the first time they stop at a barley field, so to speak, or like the beginning of the movie is World War One, and then at the end where they stop the train again, of course that it's World War Two because we know the Nazis are there and everything. So maybe, but the time I think is not. It's not enough time because it would be 15 years roundabout that would have to be in between, and that's not enough.
For sure. Yeah, I don't remember what the scale of time in the movie is. I think it's only like what, a couple weeks.
Yeah, but then like after the will is resolved properly, and the time where Ralph Fiennes' character is killed by the Nazis, there is some time in between there, but I would also say it's like a year at best.
And then it's decades, because then it fast forwards to F. Murray Abraham, who's
of course, yes,
an old man, and or I think it's like 20-something years. He's an old man, and Jude Law talking to him. That opening's pretty funny, where it's the writer at his desk, and he like kind of his eyes dart off camera, and he's like, "Don't do it,
don't do it." Yeah, and then I love that also. And then when he comes back, he's like, "Sorry," and he just mid sentence says, "It's okay." And then the kid, like he holds, like he has one hand on his, I guess, grandfather's or whatever, on the right shoulder, and then he looks into the camera and holds the gun toward the camera. And he just has this look on his face, and that is one of my favorite shots in the movie, because it is so threatening. Yeah. It is so brilliant.
Oh God, it's just so. That's the thing this movie does the best. It just like has so many of these little weird, quirky details, and subtleties, and it just immerses you, and it doesn't really have to make sense. Like, why the hell does the kid have the gun? Who the fuck knows?
I know.
That's like the whole movie.
It's so good.
Why are they in cable cars, and why do they have to switch to the other cable car to get to the church and go to the confessional?
Yeah. Oh, so good.
Why did Willem Dafoe kill the cat? Who the fuck knows? It's part of the quirkiness.
Like it is so brilliant. But there's also like one thing that I only noticed on my maybe fifth watch or something. Maybe you've noticed already. But there's this scene where Jude Law and Murray Abraham, they're talking in the restaurant, like at the very beginning, and he's just like, "Yeah, I'm gonna tell you my story now." And then he says, "It begins, of course, with our friend's predecessor." And when he just says, or our mutual friend's predecessor. And then when he says mutual friend, it's the shot is on Jude Law. And then in the back, the mutual friend that they're talking about, the character of Jason Schwartzman, he just leans into the frame. Like in the background. It's very small, but you see him there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it's just like also like the
what they're saying.
Yeah, like the visual cue to what they're saying. It's sort of like with the cat when it's, did you just throw my cat out the window? But it's like subtle things like that. I'm like, oh, I love that.
Yeah, it's just like he's leaning in, and I think at the same time that makes sense, because it's like he's supposed to be. I guess the joke is he's not that great of a concierge, but he's supposed to be attentive and listening and all that stuff anyway, so it makes sense for him to lean into the frame, even if it's like a little bit of maybe a fourth wall breaker or whatever.
But also it's very much like, oh yeah, this is the friend that I'm talking about right now, let's just show him real quick without going to a different scene.
So chock full of double meanings. And I don't know, I can't remember if Isle of Dogs was the same way. I think the stop motion was more of the spectacle on that one, where it was less maybe subtle, but it was still like everything was still very well put together and so much attention to detail, but the attention to detail is more in the anime.
There's this scene where they prepare the poisoned sushi for the scientist. And that scene, like how he cuts the fish, it is so well made. And I read, because there's like a moment where he puts on rubber gloves, so he doesn't touch the poison that he's putting on there. And I saw like a part of a documentary, I think, on how incredibly difficult it was to find a way on how to animate putting on rubber gloves onto a clay-made character.
Interesting. Why was it so hard?
I'm not sure because I think it's the physics of rubber gloves, and like I think in general the act of putting on gloves onto a puppet to animate that is hard in and of itself, I think. But then also rubber gloves and the physics and the texture that they have while they're on the hand stuff, I think it made it even harder.
Huh. Okay,
Yeah.
I see what you mean. Where it's just like, okay, so they have the clay model, and they want to use actual rubber for the glove. They don't want to like make something synthetic, or they don't want to make it out of clay as well. Keep the
Yeah.
realism.
Yeah.
But it's just like it doesn't go over smoothly.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. I get that. Yeah, that is pretty crazy.
So there's always very much this attention to detail. Also, I read that because Tilda Swinton plays, I don't know, a very old lady in the Grand Budapest
Yes.
Hotel, and apparently
Yet another role of hers where you don't recognize her until you see it.
yeah, but like I think Wes Anderson was like, oh yeah, you don't, you know, we can do on a low budget, but like for that we need real good makeup artists because that has to look real, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they also didn't, you know, they didn't resort to this type of shit that they did in The Irishman where it just looks horrible.
Yeah, some of it did, but not all. I get what you're saying. Where they did, I think a better example is the newer Star Wars movies. Like, have you seen Rogue One, where they did Leia?
Oh,
and
Rogue
just
One,
looks
I had.
like a cartoon.
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
True.
that one's bad. Well, I don't know if you watch Red Letter Media, but one of my favorite jokes of theirs is they were doing a review of Rogue One and they interspliced the trailer, and they were doing like they interspliced it in their whole video. Like they talk about it and they show a little bit of the trailer or whatever. And one of the trailers, instead of like there's Tarkins in it, so instead of showing the Tarkin that they had in the movie, they I don't know, like one of the cartoon shows, they added in the cartoon version of him in it. Just like real quick.
Oh no.
That was uncanny, just how they did Tarkin. That was just like so not great. But I thought The Irishman improved that style a lot more.
I would say they did, but to me it was like so unnecessary because I was like, I felt like it was they were so like, oh yeah, we have to you know, let Robert De Niro and Joey Pesci play these characters, you know, and instead of doing what they usually do in Hollywood, which is to cast younger actors that look similar, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But they were like, oh no, we have to use these AAA actors, you know. But then to me that made the movie worse. Like I would rather have seen the AAA actors in less scenes and then have younger actors portray the young versions of those characters and have the movie look good, you know.
Yeah, I understand that. I think the point of the movie was it's the end of an era. This is like the last show.
Yeah, it was Martin Scorsese All-Stars.
Right, yeah, it's Martin. That's a great way to conceptualize it. It's Martin Scorsese All-Stars, and it's like it's a spiritual trilogy. It's Goodfellas, Casino, and then this one.
Yeah.
Or you could say Mean Streets, Goodfellas, this one. There's a couple you could put in there, but it's just an end of an era. And
yeah, I get why they did it. I just don't agree with the decision. That's all.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Ironically, the best the best movie where they had an actor play. They had a different actor play an older actor was Godfather 2, where De Niro played a younger Marlon Brando.
Oh, I've not seen The Godfather 2 yet. I've only seen the first one.
What?
Yeah.
Okay. But we're going to do a best movies
I was
ever.
just like, Marlon Brando's not in it, so why would I watch it?
Yeah, he isn't, but it's like he. Yeah, actually, yeah, you're right. He isn't in it. The last scene is, well, I won't spoil it. But, I mean, that character, even at the time, was so iconic.
Yeah.
It's like you obviously knew who the Godfather was.
Yeah.
You know, the Brando version. And then it's De Niro pulled it off. And he won an Oscar for it. Yeah, he pulled it off
Really?
in 2, playing the younger version of him.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah, that was oh, yeah, he's so fantastic in it. And he only has, like, a couple lines in English. All the...
Sorry?
So, he only has a couple lines in English. All of his lines are in Italian.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he has that kind of... He pulls off the Brando voice that he does as the Godfather.
Yeah.
But, like, does it
I
in a
imagine
different
that
way.
that would
like,
be
as if he
very
was
hard,
younger.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, the Godfather. Marlon Brando's Godfather, it's... everything.
So you've seen the first one, but you didn't see the second one? I like the second
Yeah.
one better.
I think a lot of people do, but I only watched The Godfather because of Marlon Brando.
Oh.
I mean, I don't have anything against Al Pacino. In fact, I think in The Irishman he was the only like character that I really enjoyed. Well, I guess Joey Pesci's character was pretty good also, but I very much enjoyed Al Pacino in that one. But I'm just like, in The Godfather, I was like, sort of indifferent about him. So I'm like, I'm not sure if I want to watch a movie where he's it's all about him, so to speak.
I don't. Again, I gotta disagree there because I think. Well, you haven't seen it, so I'm not disagreeing with anything. But, yeah, I mean, the first movie is about his turn, his character arc, because like in the beginning he's this war hero and he doesn't want to be a part of the family business, and he's very adamant about that. And then over the course of the movie, he becomes the Godfather, and like, how does that even happen? Yeah. And then the second movie is like him being the Godfather, and it's like I think he really, really plays that intimidating kind of figure very, very well, and it's portrayed in the family very, very well, because it's like, oh, you can't do that. You'll upset Michael, or it's like he's looming over. His essence is looming over every scene when he's talked about. Like, Durst in every scene, and I think he manages that very, very well. And that movie split up. It's telling two different stories at the same time. It's telling the Pacino, his adventures as a Godfather, and then they're telling the story of how his father got his start. So it's intersplicing those very, very well.
Okay. And maybe I have
but
to
when
give it a shot.
when we do a best films ever series, I'll choose that one definitely. That's definitely one I'll choose.
Oh wow. Okay.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna choose that one. Goodfellas, Return of the King, Barry Lyndon, and then I'll find some other one.
Okay.
Pulp Fiction, maybe.
I definitely would. Okay, I mean, you're saying that the second one's better anyway, but I definitely wouldn't have chosen The Godfather as even close to one of the best. I feel like if we would talk about like single scenes that are like among the best in cinema history, then I feel like the opening scene of The Godfather 1 I might nominate for that. But
yeah, it's the best scene. That's a pretty good one we could do too. I mean, but again, I just come back to the same movies.
True.
I mean, so The End of the Fountain I'd put in there, and that'd be like probably the only difference. Maybe I don't know. Well, Under the Skin, I'd put the processing scene. We've already talked about that. But yeah, like Barry Lyndon, there's a couple scenes in there. There's like an editing choice. It's not even a scene; it's an editing choice. But I choose it as a scene. Like, that's how good it is.
Wow. But don't give it all away, just in case we're doing an episode on that.
No, I won't. Justice by telling you what it is.
No, I mean like
Um,
don't give away all your scenes.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What the point I'm getting at is, I'd choose it from the same movies,
Fair enough.
and
I
Godfather 2 is no exception.
Okay. I know actually. I was just thinking, and I think I would not even choose any episode, any scene of the Grand Budapest Hotel. I think there's
I was just gonna say the same thing.
the thing is like there's such amazing shots in there, and but I'm still trying to think like what's even the best scene. I think it might be the almost the last. It's certainly one of my favorites where the story has ended and then the voiceover of Jude Law says like so most of these types of hotels have become common property, but obviously Mr. Mustafa has still has paid a lot to keep his hotel, even though it's like barely making any money, so he essentially wasted a fortune. And I just couldn't figure out why, so I had to ask, even though I didn't, it was not, something I would usually do. And he just says that, and then it ends on this shot of them looking at each other, and it's sort of set up in a way where you would think that Jude Law now says, why did she buy it? But then he just says, have I upset you, or do you mind me asking, or something? And only then you realize that he's already asked the question, and Mr. Mustafa was just taking a long time. And then he just answers that, and it's a beautiful scene. And then he goes into the elevator and says, because Jude Law asked, do you think it's your last connection to his world, referring to Ralph Fiennes? And then when he gets into the elevator, he says, to be frank, I think his world had ended long before he stepped into it. And then it's the scene where the doors close and he goes up the elevator alone. And just because of how the interiors of the hotel look also, it just makes such a nice scene to me. But it's definitely not one of the best. But like it's very visually pleasing, and I very much appreciate the writing and the direction of that scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And I think it ends on the statue again, right?
Yeah. The very end of the movie is the statue, but like that's the end of the story that is told by the writer. But of course,
right.
Because it's multiple stories in one another. Because it's like the story of this girl visiting the statue, and then reading the story of the writer, telling the story of how he was told the story, and so on.
Yeah, infinitum. Yes, I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think the like I said, I think the theme here is the movie's very subtle, and maybe that might be to its detriment, where it just doesn't have that one scene that just really stands out to you, and it's like, oh my god, you got to see this so you can get to this part right here.
Yeah.
Although so actually, I think that's what's really holding me back, is there's not that one.
It's nothing that really wows you, yeah. But actually, there was one more scene. There's one more scene that I want to say, and then a few shots, because there is one scene where Saoirse Ronan and Zero, I don't know the actor's name, unfortunately.
Tony Ravioli. Tony
Rivolori, I think. Rivolori. Yeah. When they're at the carousel, and then he gives her the book, and then when she reads the inscription and it appears on screen, and then there's this shot of her face and the lights of the carousel in the back, and I think that's very well done. And also just remember, because where we talked about like these useless sort of aspects or details in the movie. Like she has a birthmark that has the exact shape of Mexico, but it's also like for no reason.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just sort of
Yeah, and
there.
they mentioned that.
Yeah, they like Ralph Fiennes was like she's so sweet, even though she's flat as a board and has a birthmark of Mexico across half her face, and it's basically just so he could talk down on her, but then be like, but still she's so amazing. I'm not sure what exactly he chooses to just to go down on her. No, that sounded wrong. Just to yeah, talk down on her, only to praise her again. That's sort of the only point of that birthmark, which is sort of weird. But again, it's like the quirkiness of Wes Anderson.
Yeah, it just provides another, another angle to the movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah, for sure. I understand that. But yeah, I agree with you. It's a bunch of really, really great shots, and it's just not one.
I have more.
Oh, okay. Go for it.
There's this scene where Willem Dafoe visits the sister of the butler, and he's just like he's seen from her perspective, and he's standing there in the snow, and the lighting is amazing, and the character, of course, is very, very intimidating, very Willem Dafoe. And then then at the end of the conversation, he says, "When you see him again, tell him Joplin says," and then it zooms in just a little bit, "Come home," and that's such a great shot.
Yeah, it is, and I like his jacket where he pulls open the buttons and
it reveals the gun. That's also
and he struggles a little bit every time he like pulls it off. Like it's not just like a clean. There's like a little. It's not struggle. He doesn't struggle with it, but it's just like a little. He has to give it a certain kind of jerk, and it's such a great little addition to the performance.
Yeah,
he just jerks it a little bit. So great.
I think in general, his character is so brilliant, and also like very much the subtleties that he does. There's this one scene, I think, when the will is being read, and they're just all looking up, and he's sitting behind Adrian Brody and just like cracking his knuckles and so
yeah.
And then when they all punch each other one after another, and every time one just goes down, and then he's the last one to punch, and then he just like turns around and does this circle around his face, and he gets so many great scenes for some reason.
And he's like not even in it that much.
Yeah, he's
skiing
so
slope thing.
Yeah, I mean he's very important to the plot, but he's still very much a supporting character.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah, and the skiing thing is cool, and
yeah,
very Wes Anderson kind of sequence where they go down the mountain on the sled and the skis and all that
and
stuff.
the pacing also, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's pretty quick, but not too quick.
Yeah,
just perfect. Just perfect.
And then also I have two more. One, well, they're both sort of comical. So one is when Ralph Fiennes is in prison, and he writes a letter, and then Zero reads it to the hotel staff, and then while it is read in his voice, and you just see him like at this, I don't know, podium, I guess, in prison, and just prison guards and other prisoners lined up behind him, and as if he was holding a speech. And I think it's also snow coming down on either side, and it is so also so useless, because there's no way that really happened, but for some reason they just need to create this picture while his words are being read.
Yeah, and then he's like, "This poem's 47 stanzas. You might want to start eating now."
Yeah.
That's like a great little touch.
And they're not like, "Oh yeah, we're not gonna read this," but they're actually like, "Yeah, go start eating, because we're actually gonna read this poem."
darn.
And then
And then the last scene.
it is when Zero visits him at the prison, and he just knocks on this huge door that says checkpoint 19. And that shot in itself, like the huge door in the snow and him very small with a package in front of this door, I think that's great. But then it's also like turned into comedy when you hear the door open, he's just like confused where it opened, where the sound came from, and then you hear a whistle, and then it slides over to this little door being opened, and he just has to go through there.
Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah, a lot of good little shots,
but often combined with the comedy again, which I really appreciate.
Yeah. Good comedy. Good snort out of your nose comedy. That should be on the box. Put that on the poster. It's a good snort out your nose comedy.
Yeah. Quite accurate, actually, yeah.
Which we all need that from time to time. Not every movie can be a, gutbuster. What movies are gutbusters? I can't really think of.
The Airplane is the one for me. I think I've not laughed more at a movie than I have with Airplane.
Huh.
And I think that movie I even laughed more when I watched it for the second time.
You watch it in German?
No, I watched it in English twice. No, 3 times even. And I think the third time was also quite funny because of all the good luck, we're all counting on you. Because we just kept doing that at like various points in the movie because we knew it was gonna happen, and just me and a friend of mine, we just found it so funny. We just kept doing it, and even after the film was over. But I think that was not the movie being funny; it was just like us having fun, sort of. But the second time, the movie was even funnier than the first time for some reason.
Yeah, it's like an inside joke. That always makes it fun. I get that. Yeah, for sure. We'll have to talk about Life Aquatic sometime. I think you'd like that. That's like it's a less complicated version than Grand Budapest. Like Grand Budapest has so much going on and so many characters and and Life Aquatic's just like, this tiger shark killed my friend and I'm gonna kill it, and that's it. Okay. That's literally it.
That shouldn't be too complicated, yeah. There's
actually
still
a lot
really
of characters, but it's very streamlined, and there's one laugh out loud kind of funny scene that I really, really love and always love. But I'll have you watch it and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay. But I think first I have to watch the next movie on the menu, so to speak, which I think
we got to give our ratings.
Yeah, but I think it's this time. It's for the first time. It's clear which the next movie is going to be. No.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is, because I have bared great burdens for the dear viewers and off a considerable amount of time and watched the Unforgiven remake. That's not a 10 anymore. That's a 5-star or whatever. That's a 4-star. And I watched The Master again. That's no longer a 5-star. That's a 4.5, which is a Grand Budapest thing where technically the movie's just flawless, but there's an enjoyment factor that's missing. And then we're going to get into our last one. Well, the last one that I haven't watched yet, but I'm going to by the time this episode comes out, is The Lighthouse. It came out not 7-8 months ago.
Yeah.
We're going to watch
Very
it.
recent. Surely the most recent movie that's going to make this list, I'm thinking.
Unless you pick Parasite.
I think even then The Lighthouse would be more recent. But I could be wrong. But anyway. Actually, since we were talking about ratings, what rating would you give Grand Budapest Hotel? Or did you give?
4.5 out of 5.
4.5 out of 5, okay.
Yeah. And you're a...
Actually, I think it was a 4 out of 5 or a 4, but the thing is, for quite a while I was very, very well, I was not generous with my 5 out of 5s. I was like the 5 only to God, which meant only to Burning and Wong Kar-wai, basically. Um, you know, like I used to be an atheist, but now I just worship Wong Kar-wai. So yeah,
You found your higher power.
yeah.
My
But
God.
then I was like, you know, what's the joy in that? So I just started being more liberal with those 5 stars. So now the Grand Budapest Hotel can also consider itself 5 out of 5.
But you took off like a whole star, like a whole point. Like, what was? If it's not like, why wouldn't you give it like a 4.5 then?
I may have given it 4 out of 5 before. I'm not sure. The thing is, like,
Oh, okay.
when I would make top 5 ever, then Grand Budapest Hotel would not be in there. Then maybe it would be in the top 10. I'm not sure, but maybe not. But I was like, okay, something that would be 4 out of 5, 4.5 out of 5 would be like among the best ever, and then the best of those are 5 stars. That's how it used to be, you know. Because like
Okay.
for me, you say okay, it's flaws, but there's an enjoyment factor. I can't really like pinpoint also what's not perfect about the Grand Budapest Hotel, except maybe that there's too much going on. But I also wouldn't say it's flawless. Whereas Burning and specifically In the Mood for Love are to me perfect movies. There is absolutely nothing wrong with them. It is they're perfect in every way. I guess there's some things that I might not gonna go into because they're very socially critical right now about Burning that aren't perfect. But
Socially critical. What do you mean by that?
it's I can tell you later. I'm not sure if it's a big topic, so I'm not sure if I want to get into it right now.
You're
Huh?
viewer. You're keeping things from the dear viewer.
Well, it's about the leading actor. There's some issues with him, and then there is also some.
No, not Jung Soo. No,
Yeah.
not Jung Soo. Everyone's Jung Soo. Jung Soo lives in everyone.
Well, I'm not saying the protagonist, but the actor who portrays him, who did a fantastic job. But
Damn it! Don't crush my dreams. I have this illusion of Jung Soo.
you wanted it. You wanted me to say it. You wanted me to
Damn
say
it! They ruined.
But that's one of the things. But yeah. But in that regard, there's absolutely not as far as I know, there's nothing wrong with In the Mood for Love. Except, I think that the biggest problem with In the Mood for Love is that because of it, there's most likely not gonna be a collaboration between Wong Kar-wai and Christopher Doyle anymore, and that's quite sad. But that's like the biggest issue of the movie.
I mean, I don't think there's such thing as a flawless movie, though. Like, even
I think there is.
my
because
favorite's
there is In the Mood
Return
for
of the
Love.
King. My favorite's Return of the King, and there's some of the CGI doesn't hold up. Or Barry Lyndon is the best made movie, I think, and there's still I can find things with that if I really look.
Which was Return of the King?
Plot
again?
lines that don't really lead anywhere.
Which was
Something
Return
like
of the
that.
King
Something
again?
small. Lord of the Rings, Return of the King.
Oh,
Yeah, that's my favorite. But I mean, like years ago, there's some CG that doesn't hold up. Most of it does, but some of it doesn't.
yeah.
And like Barry Lyndon, like there's a scene or two that's a little bit of fat, and it could be cut out if nothing changes. But I guess the one that's coming up, it's early and it's not really a spoiler. But he fights he gets in the army and he fights this guy, and it's just like that scene's there, and like the guy he fights is like kind of comically like a jerk, like comically a bully kind of character, and it's just there. Oh no, I know the flaw in it. It's about the life and times of this character, and in the beginning he's supposed to be like a teenager, and he looks like a 30-year-old still. Like they don't change him makeup wise the whole time, so he like until the end he looks older. But in the beginning when he's supposed to be like an 18, like looks like he normally does. It's
So
kind of
it's
funny.
sort of like Robert De Niro in The Irishman, but worse.
The other way around. The other way around, where it's or you know, like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, where it's like all these people are supposed to play high schoolers, but they're like 30 years old. None of them look like high schoolers. It's like that.
Well, I mean, in The Irishman, it's like when Frank is supposed to be, I don't know, what, 30 or whatever? Or
Yeah.
40, I guess, because his children aren't that young. It just, like, you just see that it's a 70-year-old with, like, de-aging, you know? Like, he has no neck, and then he walks, like,
He walks like an old man. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so horrible. And is it just me, or does it look? I'm not even sure if like they did it with post production or if Robert De Niro was wearing lenses. But there's something about Robert De Niro with blue eyes that makes me incredibly uncomfortable.
I think it's dreamy. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, whatever. It just, I just really did not enjoy it, that. But yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think that will be it for today anyway.
Yep. Lighthouse next. It's
Yep.
gonna be awesome.
For
So
one,
I'm gonna watch with subtitles, and I'm gonna know what they're actually saying this time.
yeah. I'm very relieved though that as a native speaker you still have to watch that movie with subtitles in order to understand what's going on.
They wrote it like they're in they. It's very realistic to the times. They wrote it the dialogue as if it was in 1910. So the
Yeah.
dialogue is very, very different.
But
And
like
it's set in Canada, so
to me,
that
to me the thing is like that there is in general some movies where I have to watch them with subtitles because there's too much at once and as far and too many characters where I'm like, okay, like either I have to watch them with subtitles or I have to. There's scenes where I have to go back once or twice to like hear it again and then like, oh, okay, that's what they said. So usually I still watch an English movie with subtitles. So that's why I was like, oh yeah. That's why it wasn't so special to me to watch the Lighthouse with subtitles either.
yeah. I mean, I watch everything with subtitles. Just you miss so much.
Yeah,
I like doing like I'm watching the fucking Mandalorian with subtitles. Like, what's that? What am I missing there? Not much.
Probably not. I've never seen it. But yeah.
Bill Burr's in it hilariously. I thought that was funny.
Who is?
He's a comedian, and he just randomly shows up in it.
Okay. That is weird.
That shows it's funny because there's so many. Herzog, who we were talking about earlier today, he's in it, and he plays like a kind of more sinister character, and it's awesome. And then Carl Weathers is in it. He's a movie star from the '80s. You know that meme with the black guy and the white guy, and they're holding, like they're clasping hands, and it's big old biceps and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that came from Carl Weathers and Arnold Schwarzenegger in the original Predator.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But he's in it, and Giancarlo Esposito's in it. I haven't gotten there yet, but he's in it apparently. So yeah, a lot of crazy, weird little cameos in it. But I still do the subtitles because it, that's my preferred way of viewing.
That actually does make me feel a lot better.
Good.
Okay. But on that note, thank you for listening, and we hope that you will hear us again next time.